Alright, this right here is the presentation I was telling y'all all about. Abram the Habiru, alright, because I'm trying to prove that Abraham was known as a Habiru. And the reason why I got a K right here is because some linguists say that it was more of a het sound than a hey sound, alright? But if you want to say Habiru, that's cool. I got two subtitles that describe my PowerPoint that I'm going to be discussing. It's called Social Groups to National Powers, okay, as we see in the Bible. And just breaking down the history of the Hebrews themselves, you have Hebrew nationality from Habiru socialism. So that's basically what I'm going to be discussing. That's basically what I'm breaking down right here today. And I'm glad y'all attended. You know what I'm saying? Kwam Yasharala. All right, with no rubbing feet during my presentation. Put that out there. Let everybody know what's going on over here. All right. So if I'm going to prove that Abraham and the Hebrews themselves are Habirus of the ancient Near East, then we have to look up some traits. Habiru traits of Abram, all right? And I'm using Abram because I don't want to express the fact of his name being changed in later times, but the earliest name he was called during the time of his travels and sojourn. All right, so let's look at some things real quick. Abraham migrated inside and outside of urban societies and owned cattle, just as Habirus did. Abraham was known as a captain or chieftain to native people in the land which he migrated in. The Bible also talks about that. These two points are in red because they're more important for you to understand about the correlation between Abraham and the Habirus. Abraham had confederacy with both Hittites and Amorites as support groups, all right, for information, military, and trade, which these are two important traits right here, military and trade, that I want you to think about during this presentation, because the rest of the information is going to tackle some of those things. And Abraham had 318 trained servants of his own band, okay? That's very important too. And waged war with other rulers who threatened smaller clans. So these are my four pivotal points that I'm going to base my whole presentation off of, and we're going to find out today if this can be correlated with scholastic information, which it is, and also does the Bible give for historicity, which it does. All right, so before we get into that too, to look at some neutral and negative descriptions of the Habiru. All right, neutral and negative descriptions. All right, often outlaws and displaced people from urban societies, okay, who at times become conglomerate, which means they come together with other displaced peoples or clans. This is what Habirus did a lot. Habirus are known as robbers associated with the Pseudo-Sumerian logogram Sagaz. And Sagaz means one who breaks sinews or murders. All right, if he was down south, we would call him a head buster and things of that nature, because that was the literal definition for them. They'll bust your head open. Over time, we see the term being more in use for outsiders and migratory social elements. All right, so over time, you see the word actually being used just to describe people that were on the outside of society or that was looked down upon because they did not have a homeland, okay, and they migrated a lot. All right. We also see Habiru conducting in military duties to city-states for cattle and clothes, being bowmen, winemakers, and rulers of small clans. All right. Now, in some texts, the negative connotation of the definition seems to fade out of focus concerning Habiru to be more reflective of certain actions and businesses they conducted in minor political issues. Therefore, saying that from headbusters, the word was actually used to refer to the activities that one would take as far as being in military, as far as being in particular trades of different city-states, or just being migratory. So there's a nuance to the word Habiru, and if you get time, bro, you can look up nuance for me real quick and just keep that noted for me, because I want to talk about that real quick. Matter of fact, babe, you can look that up. Look up nuance and I think it's philology or something like that. But we're gonna get to that though. But look up the word nuance for me so I can read that later on. All right. With these 5 general descriptions that I just read, at least with 3, we can see a good parallel to Abraham as being easily identified as such, Habiru, even such as a murderer, which should be no surprise if Abraham is dated to around 2100 BCE a time where hostility plagued the land and where survival meant kill or be killed. So you're talking about somebody that got 318 servants in his house. So it wasn't no willy-nilly peaceful type of guy. He understood that if he was traveling from Ur Chaldees all the way into Haran, that you was going to have some protection. You was going to have a squad that was ready to put that work in, point blank, period. And if you look at the movie Conan, Conan is actually put inside of the time frame of Nadar Sin. All right? And that was in Mesopotamia. You see a lot of things going on in that movie because it's actually describing to you what the Habirus went through. All right? For the references, you can see Spicer's. He has a book called Ethnic Movements in the Ancient Near East, where he talks about different tribes, not just the Habiru traveling, migrating. You have Sharia, Habiru, and Hebrews. Okay, you have Parzin or Parzine, the problem of the Ibrim in the Bible. And you also got this brother right here named Devox, who was the master linguist, where he would actually show you, and other people as well can actually show you, in today's scholarship, can show you that the word Ibrim is the base word for a lot of words in the Bible that means to transgress. So it has a negative connotation to it. It just doesn't mean cross over all the time. It can mean transgress, breaking the law. Same thing that the Apirus or the Habirus were accused of. All right, and murdering at that time, or murdering the innocents at that time, would be a big trespass in certain societies. So on to the next slide. All right, this right here is dealing with Albright's revision, but all I'm using this for is I'm using this to show that my first point, at Abraham being somebody that traveled inside and out of urban societies, which would have to take some particular trade routes to get where he was going at, that Albright also concludes with that. So I'm just going to read something real quick. Right here, I'm going to start right here, and you can read the rest if you want, but I'm going to start right here. Genesis chapter 14:13 made it possible to bridge the gap between Abraham and Habiru, since these caravanners from the 19th century are known today as the Habiru, which is an Egyptian text, later Abriaya, which I haven't really seen that lately, but I'm going to look into that, and then Hebrew Ibri. This allowed Albright to conclude that the writer has collected a massive evidence for the equation to equate Habiru with donkey men or donkey drivers or caravans. Elsewhere, one finds a different argument on this point. Albright maintains that Sagaz, the same people or the same pseudo-local that I was talking about, were nomads. Okay, because Sagaz were usually the leaders of these groups, so they had to have the mindset of killing and protecting their groups because they were the leaders. All right, they were nomads, but not pure nomads, since the women in the Sagaz groups produced textiles. Indeed, quite an odd conclusion. All right, and I ain't really going to read too much more, but I'm going to explain this real quick. First of all, we see that Apiru is equated to donkey man. Not saying that Apiru means donkey man, but the simple fact of the matter is if you was an Apiru and you was uprooted from a society, okay, when you was uprooted from your social and political society, you would have to have means of travel. Means of travel, you had to have donkeys. You couldn't carry clothes, you couldn't carry any trade items, you couldn't carry water, and those things without donkeys. And donkeys was mostly used around this time, not camels, because they said they were not domesticated at this time, even though we see that Abraham also had camels as well. And the first domestication of camels did start in Arabia in the Mesopotamia area. So, but that's why he equates Apiru with donkey men. And we know that Abraham had such. Okay, and donkey men or donkey caravanners or donkey drivers were people that actually went on trade routes to conduct particular trades so they could survive. All right, it's like going to the pawn shop today or whatever like that. You know the route to take to go to the pawn shop, and this is what they were doing with the donkeys. Then we're dealing with Sagaz. They were nomads, but not pure nomads as far as Albright is concerned. And that's cool because the Bible actually correlates and it definitely matches perfectly well with this description of Albright's understanding of Abraham. And we're going to click on to the next slide. I'm going to give you the source. This comes out of a book called The Anthropological and Historical Studies on the Israelite Society Before the Monarchy, volume 37, pages 49 through 52. And I call this Albright's Theological Revision or Revision. All right. Now, this is my endnotes. Although critique, Albright initial, okay, his first point and his changed views on the nomadism of Abram is backed up by scriptures as being semi-nomadic, okay, and other Hebrews, because Abraham was not the only Hebrew. Why? Because such as his sons and grandsons being stationary like the Ishmaelites, okay, the Edomites, who would be considered Hebrews, and even Jacob's uncle Laban, okay, but still with nomadic tendencies. So these people would stay in one area. Some people would be left behind in their tribe, and some of the people of the tribe would move on to either other tribes or they move on to other lands, and they just keep traveling. All right, so on to the next slide. These are the possible trade routes that Abraham could have taken. We understand that from Ur, you would have to take a northwest trade route, and if he were to take a northwest trade route, he would actually be traveling amongst these major cities. Okay, you have Agag, you have Babylon, you have Nuzi, you have Mari. These are major cities where we see along the Euphrates, okay, and along the Tigris, where a lot of cuneiform tablets have been found, a lot of political tablets have been found, and a lot of religious tablets have been found. And amongst these communities, you had what you call the urban areas. You had the suburbs, and then amongst the suburbs, you had where the nomads would live, which these nomads would also be called Habiru because they lived around these cities because they had to penetrate some of these towns and these cities to get what they needed to survive. All right, so Abraham had to travel amongst these trade routes and, of course, pick up different other people as well because, like I said, to survive, you would have to actually become conglomerate with other people that you pick up along the way. So let's go on to the next one. All right, this is my second point. This is about Abraham being a leader. Okay, biblical tradition holds that Abraham became a great leader of his people and that his descendants held important positions in Palestine. While there is no independent proof that any of Abraham's descendants were warriors, which is not true, but that's another slide, this is a curious reference in the Old Testament to Abraham becoming a general in the armies of the 5 kings. This is Genesis chapter 14. It is possible that Abraham did play a vital role in helping to reconstruct the political and military institution of the Palestine of that time. If so, as a Semitic Sumerian like Sargon and Narasin, he would have been well acquainted with both Sumerian political institutions. He come from Ur, so you're going to know the politics there. All right, point blank period. And more importantly, the military technology of the Akkadian army. So if this man is coming out with 318 servants, or if he acquired 318 servants in the land of Canaan, that means he had to have superior weaponry. He had to know how to formulate an army. He had to know how to actually lead a coalition, guerrilla warfare. So therefore, people will gather to him because they see him as a great leader. Therefore, they will also consider him as being a Sagaz because that's what the Sagaz did back in those times. They gathered people around as in bands, or as we call today, gangs, Bloods, Crips, and all that kind of stuff like that, to have protection, to have money, to be able to survive, a family, a tribe, and from different ethnical backgrounds. All right, everybody didn't come from the same bloodline when it comes down to gangs today, nor did it back then. That's all these are. All right, if he carried the standard military weapons of Sumer, which he did, with him on his migration, Abraham might have provoked a military revolution in Palestine only 100 years before the rise of the Hyksos and the successful invasion of Egypt. Now, I'm not saying Abraham's the only person that traveled from Ur down to Canaan or wherever like that, but because the brother did come from Ur and he did carry standard military weaponry and he did understand the political system of Ur at that time, when he came to Canaan, people saw fit that he was a leader. People saw fit that they can be protected underneath of him, all right? And therefore, he was able to gather 318 men of his own clan, and they were not his sons. Not saying they were not related to him, but they were not his sons. They were not his offspring or anything of that nature. And we don't have no recordation of them coming out of Ur with Terah, with Haran, and with Abraham, and with Sarah. This is after he comes from Haran and goes into Canaan. All right. So into the next slide. This source is from Sumer to Rome, which is a good book, The Military Capabilities of the Ancient Armies, pages 13 by Richard A. Gabriel, Kareem S. Meets or Metz. All right, my end notes. Genesis chapter 23, verses 6, Abraham as a chieftain. Abraham went amongst a Hittite group. Not saying that this is actually the Hittite land, but Hittites that also was uprooted from their urban society that traveled and became Habirus as well, migratory people, settled in the land in Canaan, or around Canaan, or probably south of Syria, not that far, had some land, and Abraham went and purchased that land. But when he went and purchased that land, they said that you are a great chief among us. So that means Abraham had to do something and able to be called a chieftain amongst people that were Hittites that owned the land. And he wasn't even the ruler of that land. he had to go talk to the ruler. And the ruler even said, you don't got to pay me for the land. So that means either Abraham did some military service for this person, or Abraham was at least somebody that intervened in some type of military coalition with them while he was living around them, because he saw fit to have a confederacy with them, so it could be some type of protection. And so he was basically, trying to show respect and just actually kind of buy the land from you. But they respected him and said, yo, you a great chief among us, man. You ain't got to pay for nothing. So obviously he conducted the military services with these Hittite groups right here. All right, point blank period. The Bible alludes to that. Now the Strong Concordance of this word chieftain or captain is nasi, which means captain. All right, it's masculine, is a noun, masculine. All right, the phonetic spelling is nasi, and it means captain. All right, so let's go to the next slide. All right, this is the Journal of the Near East. Anthropological research in the field of tribal society in ancient times has made a major contribution in clarifying the problem at hand. Documents discovered at Mari and recently published also contribute to a better understanding of the meaning of the term Habiru. See below, recent archaeological research in Palestine, and in particular in the hill countries where the Israelites settled in the pre-monarchical period, also have helped eliminate certain erroneous notions about the Habiru. This evidence encourages new discussion of the relationships between the Habiru and Hebrew, and may even offer somewhat different answers to these questions. All right, that's a little bit too big. I don't know why, but it don't matter. All right, now, common to all the people designated as Habiru. This is very important. Common to all the people designated as Habiru. I can replace that and say, common to all the people designated or called niggers, all right, is the fact that they were uprooted from their original political and social framework and forced to adapt to new environments. The different traits and social behavior of the Habiru in each area of the ancient Near East, Eastern Asia, are the outcome of this adaptation to new circumstances. What that say? Among what? Among reasons for breaking off their former political and social ties were wars, disasters, famines, debts, heavy taxes, prolonged military service, and so on. So we see that these people was taken out of their society, taken out of their land, based upon and due to the fact of, based upon famine, debt, heavy taxes, and prolonged military service. The same thing we go through today. But like I said, that's a whole different that's a whole different PowerPoint, because we see that this is why people are uprooted, and this is why people leave their countries. This is why people became foreigners, as we're going to read on. Recent studies on the tribes have shown that the poorest tribal elements, those whose livestock or lands diminish to the point at which it is no longer sufficient to sustain a family, often left their tribes to seek a living elsewhere. It should be emphasized that the tribal framework was basically territorial and included inhabitants of a small town and villages as well as nomads. Tribal ties encompass large areas and function as a loose social structure which united many groups and families of a different nature, of diverse nature, So as we can plainly see here, Abraham traveling, 318 servants. He has confederacy with Amorites and Hittites. Let you know right there that this brother would be considered as a Habiru, looked upon ancient people from other societies. But they don't want to classify Abraham as a Habiru because it would give some type of leeway to the origins of the Hebrews. This is what scholars try to stay away from. This is what Kemetic scholars try to stay away from. This is what a lot of white scholars try to stay away from, because they don't want the Hebrews, nor do they want the Bible to actually have any type of ties to ancient history. All right. The camera probably will let me see something real quick.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. Now, my sources is Habiru and Hebrews, the transfer of a social term. Okay, that means a term that is not designated as ethnicity to the literary sphere. All right, which means the literal actual aspects are the ethnical nature of the Hebrews. This is written by Nadav Naaman, Journal of the Near East Studies, volume 45, number 4, published in October 1986, pages 271 to 288. And my endnote is, as we see, many different ethnical and tribal groups would form confederacy, as did Abraham. shedding light on his Habiru nature, moving into Canaan. And you can see Genesis chapter 14, verses 13, where when Lot was taken and when the 4 kings came into through Mesopotamia and Canaan, where they took booty, where they took people, and they was pillaging the whole land, they took Lot. And the the 2 Amorite brothers that escaped actually came and told Abraham, listen, they got your nephew. And it said that Abraham had a confederacy with them because he was living in a land, or he was living in a tribal setting where Amorites basically dwelt at. Uprooted Amorites dwelt at this time. All right, so to the next one. All right, let me get on this side real quick. All right, now, the social status, Habiru, or the social status nigger, uprooted migrants, okay, did not last very long. The stable organization of these bands mainly based on, the stable organization of these bands mainly based on the personality of their leader and cohesion of their members was short-lived. That means this stuff did not last long because there was many different Habiru groups. But it didn't last long though, all right? Now, sooner or later, the members married, had children, so I mean they bounced, they found a wife, they bounced, found a husband, they bounced. So they didn't stick around in that group anymore, just like how families do today. You get up, you 5 years old, you get 16, you leaving out the house by that time. You got a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that by that time. I'm just speaking this to relate in terms that we can understand today. They had children and their numbers expanded, to a degree which necessitated support from a larger political group. Something the Bible actually talks about. Thus, the band appeared to have reintegrated themselves either into tribal societies, they went to other tribes, other gangs, other cities, other projects, they moved, okay, or through military service, like you see today, into urban societies, or may have even formed the nucleus of an entirely new tribe. The Hebrews did all 3 of those, okay? The Hebrews reintegrated themselves into smaller tribes, Ishmaelites, Edomites, Midianites, okay? They also, through military service, just like Joseph in Egypt, okay, was integrated to urban society, into the Kemetic culture, or, which they did do this after they left out of Egypt, may have formed the nucleus of an entirely new tribe. So that means the Habiru people, even though they were of different ethnical backgrounds, meaning they just didn't have, this wasn't a bloodline thing, this could have been any and everybody joining this group, they would actually leave to make new groups. And hence, this is why the Israelites called themselves Israel. This is why they chose to use their forefather Jacob's name to be the name that they was going to call themselves throughout the millenniums and throughout their generations, instead of the name that they always knew that had a negative connotation to it was Habiru. But it still stuck with them. And they used that term. And they even changed that and used that and embraced that to be something ethnical for them, because that term was actually out of use around 1100 BCE. That term, Habiru, actually stopped being used around 1100 BCE, and then you have somebody called Israel popping up on the scene all of a sudden. And scholars don't want to put that together. All right, cool. It appears that the individual refugees often became reintegrated into society through their services in ancient Near Eastern kingdoms. One may safely conclude that the people designated as Habiru, designated as niggers, who appeared in different places at different times in various Western Asiatic regions, had nothing in common apart from their similar social status. Wow. Each society had its own Habiru people. Now, everywhere in America, everywhere in the world, you got your poor black people. Right there. It's a hood in Bangladesh. It's a hood in Thailand somewhere. You got the darkest of the dark, surviving, pushing drugs. They may not be doing that. I'm not saying all of them is negative, because all black people that's poor don't do negative things, but they survive and they hustling. They're making a living, and they're coming together to do it. Gangs, Bloods, Crips, all that things of those niggas. But that's a different powerful. Like I said, we can relate to this. All right. But in general, the phenomenon of the Habiru can be described as a circular process. Whoa, but I ain't even going to touch on that. One in which people were uprooted from their society, in which They were born, Abraham out of Ur, lived for a while as foreigners in another country, Abraham going into Haran, going into Canaan, and then were absorbed into their new environment. Abraham's great-grandson Jacob and all of his 70 children going into Egypt, reintegrating into the Kemetic society. We see that right there in this scholarly article. It matches right up with the Bible. Matches right up with it. My sources, the same book, Habiru to Hebrews, the transfer of the social term to the literary sphere, and you know what I'm saying, you know his name, whatever like that. In notes, Genesis chapter 45, verses 5 through 8, we see the intergrade of the displaced wandering Hebrews into Kemetic society, just as Habiru people noted by the scholars. So that's plain to see right there. Now this is the big part. How much time do I got? I'm good. All right, this is the part that it always cuts off on. It ain't gonna cut off now. Now we got Habiru, Apiru, and Ibrim. Okay. Now this is my terminology that I coined. It's called philological nuance. And baby, you look up nuance. Can I see that real quick? You can read it if you want. Philological. Philology is dealing with textual criticism, dealing with linguistics, dealing with context. So we're dealing with linguistics here. And then we're also dealing with the linguistical nuance of this word right here. And these are definitely nuances to this word. Can you read what that is, love?
Read!
That's right. And I'm coming for you, Tezoria. All right, that's it.
Nuance, right?
Yeah.
All right, it say a subtle difference or distinction in expression, meaning, response, etc. It also say a very slight difference or variation in color or tone.
Okay, so we see that Apiru and Ibrim is actually a different tone from Habiru or Habiru, because they still have a similar social status connected to it. So we can actually say that the origins do come from this. Hebrew would come from that. Even though it means to cross over, this word in different contexts will mean somebody that migrates. So it is a nuance to this. So it's a philological nuance. All right. Appellation, which means just a title or a name, not ethnicity in Genesis. Hebrew is an appellation, not an ethnicity in Genesis. The way the Genesis writer uses it, the way the Hebrew writer, he or she uses it, it is not an ethnical name at this point. When you're dealing with Genesis chapter 39 verses 1 through 14, and you can also see verses 17, you're dealing with Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife said that a Hebrew was brought in by my husband to mock us. Now why would she even know he's a Hebrew first of all? When this is the first person that you ever met coined as a Hebrew by the writers. So the writers ain't that stupid. They're sitting there letting you know that this brother was known as something that was common to these people in Egypt at that time. Whether you want to place Joseph in 19th century BCE or 17th century BCE, he was known by a name, by an appellation. He was not known by an ethnical marker. That's a lie. All right? Now, Genesis chapter 40 verses chapter 40 verses 14 through 15, and also see chapter 42 verses 6 through 7. And this right here is dealing with this man Joseph telling somebody that he was locked up with that he was stole from the land of the Ibrim. He was stole from the land of the Ibrim. There is no such place called the land of the Hebrews. Not at all. So why would the writers even say that? There's no such place as that. Then you got Genesis chapter 41 verses 10 through 12. And I think this is dealing with him actually eating with his brothers. But it says that the Egyptians cannot eat with Hebrews. Why? That does not make any sense. Because if they knew Hebrews as an ethnical marker, what was the point of them not eating with them? What did the Hebrews ever do to you when you can't eat with the Hebrews? All right, it doesn't make any sense at all historically until you put it in a historical lens. Then you got Genesis chapter 43 verses 30 through 32. Also see Genesis chapter 46 verses 30 through 34, and this is also dealing with them shepherding. The Egyptians did not like shepherds, and Joseph had to tell his father the Egyptians abhor. They do not like shepherds. Now why? All right, let's talk about it. All right, let me get on this side real quick. All right, Genesis chapter 39 verses 1 through 4 notes the most obvious use of the term Hebrew being an appellation, a title, of a negative sense in the narrative of Joseph being accused of rape shows the fact that the Hebrew writers, the people that wrote the Bible, of a later date, maybe 600 BCE, if that's what they want to say, carefully shows that Joseph's identity as a Hebrew was well known to the house of the Egyptians and of the wife's husband, which is Potiphar, who brings Joseph in as a worker. Okay? But how is this true, seeing that this is the first Hebrew the Egyptians encountered in their time period, besides Abraham, who's dead and gone? They didn't even know him as being a Hebrew. Okay? This guy lived like 70? You know what I'm saying? So they didn't have no record of this dude. All right? Period. Who is dead and gone, and Jacob, who is but a small clan of 70 people, not known or recognized by the Egyptians. How the hell do these Egyptian people know that Joseph was a Hebrew when this is the first Hebrew they encountered? They don't even know his father. They don't know Abraham, but they just know, you're a Hebrew. We just see it all on you. You're a Hebrew, okay? If according to modern Hebrew doctrine of today, that Hebrew is an ethnical term and is direct blood tied to Abraham, why then is it here, okay, in this particular story, that the narratives make it clear that Joseph's family is unknown to Kemet, but Joseph is known by ethnical marker? Now, how the Bible going to actually convey that they're unknown, but they still know that this brother is a Hebrew and identify him by ethnical marker? It does not make any sense. It does not make any sense, not unless the writer knows of the term used in Joseph's time period for his ancestors as the appellation or title, Habiru or Apiru. Why would the Hebrew writer writing to Hebrews make mention to the audience who are Hebrew, he or she is trying to reach by letting them know of what ethnicity their forefather was? That makes no sense at all. It don't make no sense for me to sit up here and have to tell somebody that is a Barnes, that your great-great-great-great-granddaddy was a Barnes. Of course he had to be a Barnes. I still have the last name, and we also know that comes from slave names. So that means the male carried the last name. It's still a tradition today. The woman does not hold the last name. Once she gets married, that last name is done. All right? Next slide. It is obvious the Hebrew writers, okay, are trying to let the Hebrews of his or her time know where their origin of claim as a people stem from. Because being Hebrew, they would know they come from such people. So why stress the ethnical identity to the audience of the ethnical culture? It don't even make no sense. Another point is, why was bringing in a Hebrew, as the woman said, he has brought a Hebrew in to mock us, such a disdain thing to the Egyptians? Seeing that the context Potiphar's wife places the usage of the word Hebrew in shows a problem with him being one, a Hebrew, versus his actual role in being just any farm worker in the house. Because that's the same thing equivalent to a nigga. That's the same thing back in the day. A white family would probably say to the white slave owner, why would you bring a nigga in the house to mock us? Ain't talking about no house nigga neither. Okay, we ain't talking about that. Because that still would be a mockery. House nigga couldn't do everything. House nigga still didn't get particular privileges that was better than the people in the field. Nigga, you worked in the house all day. You was monitored all day. You had to smile. You had to do the shit you ain't want to do all day. All right? So that's equivalent to a nigga right there. Because that's exactly how you look at us today. That's that. You get a high position somewhere in some office somewhere. They gonna look at the boss and say, you mocking us or something? You got this nigga up here with us? All right? So anyway, see Genesis chapter 40 verses 14 through 15 notes. This is dealing with the second verse. Land of Ibri, which Joseph says he was stolen from. He was not stolen from the land of Ibri. I know what land he was stolen from. We're going to see here. Land of Ibri here in context, because a lot of people don't like reading in context, with the narrative of Genesis shows that Joseph is referring to the whole land of Canaan and not a bloodline population of Hebrews, but a common place for diverse Habiru groups. And why do I say that? It's because in a particular passage, particularly this one, Genesis chapter 42, verses 6 through 7, when he asked his brothers, he said, where do you come from? And his brother said, we come from the land of Canaan. So if you was taken from the land of Canaan first, and you telling somebody you was taken from the land of the Hebrew, and you became the Pharaoh second, and then your brothers came down there, and you played a little trick on them because they didn't know who he was, and you asked him where you come from, why did you just ain't say the land of Hebrew? Why they ain't say that? Because the land of Canaan is equivalent to where Habirus live. And that's all he was basically saying at this point. All right. Excuse me. Also, in the account of Joseph being taken out of the pit, it was well known to the writers and the characters, preferably the 12 patriarchs who put the brother there, that their brother was taken from Dothan, which in no way was Hebrew territory. See Genesis chapter 37, verses 1 through 19. Next slide. This will be my ending slide. Now, how much time do I got, love? I'm good. Cool. All right, Genesis chapter 43, verses 30 through 32. Also, Genesis chapter 46, verses 30 through 34. And the word for an abomination here is tobah, because they were trying to say that it is an abomination to eat with Hebrews. They were trying to say that it is an abomination to the Egyptians to deal with shepherds. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's because the Hyksos was there and things of that nature. I have my own argument about that, but that is not the case. And that wouldn't even be historically reliable to even quote such a thing like that, because you want to look at Josephus. Josephus was not always right. Josephus was actually trying to find us in history. This is us in history that I'm giving you right here. Okay, tobah, all right, abomination, detestable. Now let's check this out. Herding cattle in the Kemetic culture is in no way detestable, seeing that in the same narrative of Joseph, which is in the Bible, and in Kemetic documents themselves, dating from 2345 BCE to 2333 BCE, the 6th dynasty, that cattle herding was a way of produce, food, and rituals ranging from goats, sheep, ducks, bulls, and pigs. So, this shows us a different reason why herding cattle was taboo to the Cometians. The biblical writers are showing the connection of cattle being disdained by association with Hebrews for the reason Habiru stole cattle. Habiru raided towns and worked as labor force for provision. They detested these people because these people were lower class people. That's all that was about. People that was of a great nobility did not want to mix and mingle with people that did not have homeland, that did not own their own, okay, and that had to do particular tasks just to be acceptable into other societies. Just like today. Just like the nigga today. Just like the Negro today. Okay? Just like this. It's just like this. Alright? And you can also see this, the military biography of Egypt's greatest warrior king, page 72, and that's dealing with the Habiru stealing cattle and things of that nature. Even though it was at a later date, you know that they were doing this all the way in the time of the from the time of the 21st century BCE all the way down into the 12th century BCE. All right, and then you can also see the Bible and Earth, okay, Finkelstein, archaeological, new vision of ancient Israel and the origins of sacred texts, pages 103. And this book right here is page 72 of the military biography of Egypt's greatest warrior king. All right, now let's talk about something real quick, and I'm going to end it. Even with exegetical references from Cambridge and Herodotus, because they try to touch on it, where it is expressed by scholars that the eating of food or using foreign utensils, which Kemetics seen as unclean to their culture, still has no ties at all with the biblical narrative of why the Kemetics did not eat with the Hebrews or why they detested herdmen. Only a scenario dealing with a social element such as Habiru clans would be more of a logical case. This has nothing to do with the Hyksos, because they were herding before the Hyksos. They were herding after the Hyksos. Atmos even talked about having to share the land of Goshen with the Hyksos, so therefore the people that he had go up there, or the people he had herding for him, were Egyptians as well. So herding in this particular passage that we were talking about up here, or even just dealing with Hebrews period, would not be because of no shepherd kings, because that's not what they was called. It wouldn't be the Hyksos period. It will be because the Hebrews are actually being called Habirus, which was known as notorious robbers at that time, and the Kemetic did not want to associate themselves with them, okay? And at the same time, dealing with the goats and things of that nature, that was just something that was probably what you call it, a stigmatization or something like that, where you actually place something on people. They knew these people that have different cattle and things of that nature. That's all that was about. That's why they associated them with shepherding. Well, we don't deal with shepherds. Not saying we don't deal with people that deal with cattle. We just don't deal with you type of people. Because we know what y'all are about. And even if they did anything positive, they would still be looked at in a negative light. Just like niggas today. You can talk white, you can push the Rolls Royce, you get a nice little job, and they still will not recognize you as a civilized person. All right? But with that being said, that's it. Thank you for watching the presentation. I'm glad that y'all was here. Shabbat shalom, you know what I'm saying, whatever like that. Everybody out there, man, you know, I thank you for listening. I hope this was very informative. Okay, and we just gonna cut it off from right here. What, you got a question, Lon? Go ahead.
So you're saying that the Egyptians eating with the Hebrews didn't have nothing to do with ethnicity, but it was basically a social class
because
type of thing?
the type of people that the Habirus were, you sitting down and eating with them would be detestable. That's just like me and you sitting down right now with a pedophile. Even though that's not how the Habirus were classified as today, but just using what we can relate to today in the eyes of other people, and even in the eyes of ourselves. If we see somebody known as committing such crime, we wouldn't even want to be associated with them. Now, what if they were chilling with somebody else that probably don't even know that they did that? And they had other friends that didn't know that they did that. We would look at them as the same. You chilling with that pedophile? I don't even want to associate with you. And that's how they were looked at this point in time. Joseph and Joseph's brothers did not bring anything foreign into the Kemetic culture. They didn't bring knives and forks and certain foods that were foreign to the Egyptians. And what that means is, too, is that with the brother Herodotus tried to say was that the Egyptians never really accepted anything outside of their culture with certain foods and things of that nature. But they never brought that into Egypt. They did bring spices and things of that nature, but those were trade things. Those are things of trade. And the Egyptians traded. So what did they do to purify those things that they traded with? They had some type of system. So therefore, they would have commenced that system, and it wouldn't have been no abomination to sit down with the Hebrews if they had their own food or something like that at that time. So it doesn't make any sense. And what people were trying to do is they were trying to keep this theological, but they wouldn't try to keep it keep this in a historical frame. The Bible writers are actually giving you pure history about the people that they stem from, because it was never a bloodline thing. It was multi-ethnical. And all you have here in the Bible is that a particular person out of this multi-ethnical group believed that he was called out, believed that he had land promised to him and his descendants. And what his descendants had done, they had chosen a name for themselves off of their father, okay, Jacob, as his name was changed as Israel, and they kept that for themselves to become a whole different group, stemming from this multi-ethnical group. And the other groups also stemmed out and became other things as well. The Habirus people have branched off to become known by different many names. And the Bible clearly displays that. Like I said, with the Edomites, with the Ishmaelites, with the Midianites, okay, these people would be considered Habiru as well, because when they went through wars, when they went through clan wars and things of that nature, because that happened too, they would actually leave. And they would migrate, they would travel, they would click over other people. And they were looked at as people that didn't have homeland. Is another perfect example is with Abraham and Lot. They got so big and so great in number that the people were actually arguing over the land. And Abraham said, listen, Lot, it was his nephew, and he called his nephew his brother. You go here, we go here. And just like we read inside of the scholarly article, if the group was too big, some people would leave to try to find support from a bigger group. So what did Lot do? Where did Lot go at? Lot went to Sodom and Gomorrah. It didn't say he wanted to go to Sodom and Gomorrah because he wanted to gamble and the lights and cameras and action and all that. You know what I'm saying? He felt as though if I go over here with my group, they would have more support. Because it was things that could have broke out dealing with that large group that Abraham was carrying with him. They could have went through some wars. It is scientifically known that when you have people using up all of the resources in certain particular geological locations, the land would be depleted. Famine will come. And I'm pretty sure Abraham and them understood that because they lived in the ancient Near East. And this is what happens. This is why they went through famines there, because they depleted the land. So these things are very historical. These things are shedding light on events that are not necessarily written down to detail, but it's touching on so many different aspects dealing with the ancient Near East, especially around the time of 2400 BCE all the way down to 1200 BCE. A time where, Canaan was over-ransacked by the Sea Peoples, over-ransacked by the Habiru from all different sizes, because the Habiru was just not one group of people or bloodline of people. These were people that were of different ethnic backgrounds. So people with well-known names could be Habirus. The Arabs would be considered Habirus. That's in this book right here. It tell you right here in this book that these people was very migratory. The Arabs. You know what I'm saying? They would be noted as Habiru. And matter of fact, the word Arab actually mean that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the conclusion. You can go ahead and stop it if you want.
Because it still got some more.